What if you're not believable? Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. Ding. Sometimes I like to say the ding. Now on to our topic. What if you're not believable? Let me first tease that at the end of this video, I'll be announcing a free Zoom call that we'll be hosting at the end of August 2024. And you might want to take advantage of it if you're interested in taking your career and really your life to new places. So stay tuned for that. Okay, this is a topic with many nuances. No surprise there. So let me start here. You ever been misunderstood in your life? Told a joke that wasn't funny? Accidentally offended someone even though you had no intention of that? Maybe someone thought you were flirting with them when you weren't. Or the opposite, even worse, you were trying to flirt with someone and they thought you were giving them the cold shoulder. Never happened to you? Great. Skip this video and continue on with your perfect life. For the other 100% of us, it can feel like a daily occurrence. I don't mean to sound hyperbolic, but the way I see it, this is one of the core traumas that we continuously experience throughout our lives, namely not feeling heard or not being understood. Heck, I just sat down with a counselor 2 days before the recording of this video, and he helped me piece together some of these, I'll call them mini traumas from my life, moments from my past where I felt less than heard. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel understood. And how over a lifetime that compiles and can manifest in interesting ways when you're an adult. It already has given me new context as to how I react to that same stimuli today. It's inescapable as a human. But Matt, is this a channel about psychology? I thought this was a channel for actors. Well, if you don't already see the crossover, let me help you get there. If we're so susceptible to being misunderstood daily, it brings up a profound truth that many of you may not have considered, or you might actually push back against me on it. That is, perhaps you're not perceived the way you think you're being perceived. Perhaps if you were to think of yourself as a product, you're not in control of the messaging or the marketing the way you thought you were. Or to take the analogy a little further, it's like you've hired someone to take care of the messaging and marketing, and maybe they're not doing as good of a job as you thought. Again, if you disagree, then I invite you to think about how often someone might say, "Are you okay?" when literally nothing is wrong with you, and you're wondering why they seem to intuit that something is wrong with you. Or how many times you've had to explain your true intentions because they were misunderstood the way they came out the first time. And I'm not just talking about over text, I'm talking about verbal dialogue. And it's really actually not even just about your words. It's about you. It's about the disconnect between your intent versus the perception. Something mysterious happens from the moment you think a thought or an emotion, and then as it travels through your brain case and out your pores and to the audience. And I intentionally use that word audience because this has huge ramifications for actors. Namely, if you think you're given a great performance and then your teacher or your coach tells you otherwise. Or if you think you're right for that role that your roommate got called in for when literally no one else on the planet would agree. That can cause confusion, if not an entire roadblock for your career. Now, I've used this following example before, but I want you to imagine recasting the movie The Notebook. And we'll keep Rachel McAdams the same, but let's take out sleepy Ryan Gosling and instead put in place Cillian Murphy. Wow. That's an intriguing change. In fact, this no longer feels like a romantic movie by Nicholas Sparks. In fact, it starts to feel more like a thriller or horror by Wes Craven. Yes, they made this movie. It's called Red Eye. So why can't Cillian Murphy play the romantic lead? While we're at it, why can't Steve Buscemi be believable as Captain America? Because even if they feel like they could inhabit those roles and bring something to those roles and be grounded and truthful in those roles, the audience would never perceive it that way. It would just feel like bad casting the entire time. It wouldn't feel, wait for it, authentic. There's that buzzword. See, this has become the word with every casting director ever because of how important it is, but also because of how misunderstood it is. See, actors hear casting directors talk about authenticity and how important it is, and they go, yeah, I believe it. I'm going to be more authentic in my next audition. Here's the catch. You can't just decide to be authentic because authenticity, by its very nature, requires agreement from the audience. You can't just wake up, look in the mirror, and decide you're going to be authentic. I have to agree with you as the audience. So if the power essentially rests in the audience deciding whether or not you're authentic, how do we get better at being authentic? Great question. It takes work. It takes intention. You need to get so hyper-specific about not just how you perceive yourself, but you have to gather the data, the factual data of how the world perceives you as well. And then comes the analysis. This can be the interesting part, and sometimes it's the hard part. Where does the world agree with you? And you go, oh, whew, thank goodness, because that's how I do feel internally, and I'm so glad that everyone agrees. But more interestingly, where is the disconnect? Where the audience does not perceive you the same way that you perceive yourself. And the ultimate question, what do you do with all that data? See, there are exercises that some acting teachers will employ that can be mildly helpful, but they're really just scratching the surface. You may have done one in your class. You might have gone up in front of the class and then the teacher said, okay, everyone look at Matt and I want you to call out 3 roles you see him playing or 3 adjectives you would use to describe him. That is all well and good when people are complimenting me, but the moment someone says serial killer, pedophile, mass murderer, that doesn't feel good. And I'm going to push back on that. And I'm probably going to look forward to getting back at that person when they go to the front of the class. But even if all of that data is helpful, if the teacher doesn't then tell you how to synthesize it, how to learn how to make that data now work for you so that you can grow as an actor and grow as a human, well, then they've left so much of the power of that data on the table. And you as the actor are left wondering why we did that in the first place. Thankfully, Sam Christensen spent the better part of 30 plus years developing a process by which students can come in, learn the data of how the world sees them, and also categorize all the data that they have about themselves and synthesize it in a way that empowers that student. Our grads, time and time again, are gobsmacked by what they learn about themselves and become so excited about how they're going to then use that information as they move forward in their careers in the form of taking better headshots than they've ever taken before, understanding why they get cast in certain roles and why they don't get cast in other roles, which leads to better targeting in your future as it relates to how you talk to your manager or your agent about which roles you should be submitted for versus not submitted for. It arms you with so much information, and at the same time, it takes away so much of the anxiety that comes with this career. And so if you're curious about anything that I've said, I invite you to join us on our free preview Zoom call that we're doing at the end of this month on August 28th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's Eastern time. You don't have to turn on your camera or your microphone. You can just be a fly on the wall. We'll talk about who Sam Christensen was. He did pass away in 2019. What led him to sort of transition from the world of casting into this work, which became his life's work for the last 30 years of his life. We'll also talk about how the workshop's laid out, and we'll leave room for questions from you, and we will have as much of a discussion as you want to have. We'll give you all of the details and the dates for our upcoming workshops. But again, there's no pressure for you to do anything on the call. You can just be a fly on the wall and listen and then drop off at your leisure. The link is in the show notes below. And if you're watching this after August 28th, 2024, sorry, but still check out the show notes because there will be other links to find out about future opportunities for these free events that we do periodically throughout the year. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, drop them below. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.